Now we shall learn another method of solving quadratic equations using something called the quadratic formula. We shall now quickly derive the formula using completing the square. For completing the square, we need the coefficient of x squared to be 1, and hence we will divide every term here by a. Ax squared divided by a will be x squared, bx divided by a will be b over ax, c divided by a will be c over a, and 0 divided by a will still be 0. Next, we will bring the constant term over to the other side, and hence we have x squared plus b over ax equals to negative c over a. Now we can complete the square here. We will half the x and put in brackets, subtract the square of the number there, and that's how we complete the square. We shall now bring this term over to the other side as well, and this is what we will get. Let us now simplify the right hand side, and by opening up the brackets, we will have negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. We shall now have common denominator, which is 4a squared here. This term here is short of 4a, so we'll multiply the numerator by 4a. We shall now put the numerator together since we now have common denominator. And hence we will have b squared minus 4ac, and at the denominator we will have 4a squared. Next, we shall square root on both sides, and hence we will have this. Now let us apply the law of indices. A over b to the power of n will be equals to a to the power of n over b to the power of n, and in this case n will be equals to half because of the square root, and hence we will square root the numerator and we will square root the denominator, and this is what we will get. The square root of 4 is 2 and the square root of a squared is a. For the numerator, we will just put the square root this way. Next, we shall bring over the b over 2a term, and this is what we will get. Notice that they have the common denominator, and hence we will put the fractions together in this way. And this is called our quadratic formula. One thing to note though, because a is at the denominator, a cannot be 0. Because if a is equals to 0, then we will just have a linear equation here. And we can simply solve this linear equation using simple algebra instead of using the quadratic formula. Now you may ask, how do I remember the quadratic formula? One way is to recite it day in and day out. The other way is to use this Mary Had a Little Lamb song to help you to remember.
What's wrong, Elisa?
X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all which is over 2a. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all which is over 2a.
Well, I hope that helps a bit. Now, before we can solve this quadratic equation, we need to take note of a few things. First, the left-hand side or the right-hand side must be equals to 0. Secondly, you must remember this formula by heart. Next, do take note that the values of a is actually the coefficient in front of x squared. The values of b is actually the coefficient in front of x, and the value of c here is actually the constant term. It is not correct to say that a is the first term, b is the second term, and c is the third term. That is definitely wrong. So in order to solve this equation, we must first, make the right hand side equals to 0, and hence we will subtract 8 on both sides. Now that we have this quadratic equation here, do you know what is the value of a? Yes, the value of a is the term in front of x squared, and hence a equals to 2. What about b? b is the term in front of x, and hence b is negative 5. And what about c? Well, c will be the constant term negative 8 here. One easy way to apply the formula is whenever you read out a, b or c, you just replace it with a bracket. And hence we have x equals to negative b plus or minus square root Now make sure this square root is a very long one, because you need to put in b squared minus 4ac over 2a. We shall now put in the values of a, b, and c. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And this is what we will get. One thing to take note of is this. Because this is negative b, so we have negative 5. And it will be simplified to positive 5 instead. And if you press the calculator for this part inside the square root, we will have the value 89. And the denominator is 4. So now you may ask, how do I press calculator for plus and minus? Well, we simply divide this into two parts. 5 plus square root of 89 over 4, or 5 minus square root of 89 over 4. And the answers are 3.61 or negative 1.11. How do you press the calculator for this part here? If you just press 5 plus square root of 89 divided by 4 without any brackets, you will get the wrong answer. What you can do is, you can first put in the bracket for the numerator. So bracket 5 plus square root of 89, close bracket, divided by 4. And we have 3.61. Another easy way which I always use is to press the equal sign whenever I have completed one part of the formula. For instance, in this case, 5 plus square root of 89, press the equal sign first. And this will complete the numerator, which I will then divide by 4, and it will be equal to 3.61. Next, we'll solve this quadratic equation. Do you know what is the value of a for the formula? Yes, it is equal to negative 7, because a is the number in front of x squared. And what is the value of b? Yes, it is negative 4, because b is the number in front of x, and c will be the constant number 8. Hence, a is not the first term, b is not the second term, and c is not the third term. You have to remember a, b, and c in this manner. We shall now put in the numbers into the formula. Negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Simplifying it, we will get 4 plus minus square root of 240 over negative 14. And we will split it into 4 plus square root 240 over negative 14, or 4 minus square root 240 over negative 14. And hence x equals to negative 1.39, or x equals to 0.821. Now, isn't it very easy to solve this quadratic equation using the formula? Let's look at another example. 6x plus 3x squared equals to negative 15. So what must we do now? Yes, we will either make the left hand side or the right hand side equals to 0. And in this case, because there's only one term here on the right hand side, we will plus 15 on the right hand side and plus 15 on the left hand side, so that our right hand side equals to 0. Do you know what is the value of a here? Yes, a equals to 3. What about b? b equals to 6, and hence c equals to 15. When we put in a, b, c into the formula, this is what we will get. Negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And simplifying it using the calculator, we will get this. Now, if you press the calculator, it will say that it is a max error, because we cannot square root negative number, and hence x equals to no real roots. Finally, we will look at one last example, 7x squared minus x equals to 2. Yes, we have to make the right hand side equals to 0 by subtracting 2 on both sides. And hence, we will get this quadratic equation. What is the value of a here? Yes, it is 7. And what is the value of b? Well, b is not 0. b is actually negative 1. And what is the value of c? Well, c is negative 2. And hence, when we put it into the formula once again and simplifying it, especially this part here, you have to be very careful. We will have positive 1 plus minus square root of 57 over 14. We will split it into two parts. One last reminder, when you press the calculator, do remember to put the brackets, or do remember to press the equal sign. and hence the answer will be 0.611 or negative 0.468. In summary, when we are asked to solve a quadratic equation like this, we have learned to do it in 3 ways. First, we can use the quadratic formula which we have just learned. Next, we can use completing the square. Or we can use factorization method. Now, there are some pros and cons to every method. For this method here, the formula may be a bit long at the beginning, but I'm sure you'll get it real soon. It is actually the easiest method and I would strongly advise using this. For completing the square, you only learn how to solve it for x squared with coefficient 1, which means that you can only use it whereby the number in front of x squared is 1. If it is not 1, well, we have to divide all the terms here by that number first. And hence, I will not recommend you to use this method unless you are told to do so. Finally, factorization method does not work unless the answers are integers. Well, most of the time it does not work at all. And I will once again strongly advise you to use the quadratic formula in solving quadratic equation. Well, and that's all for this part of the lesson.